Hi, everybody. I'm Abby. I'm with the Friends of the Library. We are super excited that you guys are here today for our Ward 14 debate. I wanted to take a chance to tell you a little bit about the Friends group and what we do, and hopefully some of you might be interested in joining our group of volunteers to help the library. We like to do things like organize events of community interest, such as tonight's debate. We also hold fundraising drives to raise additional money for the library, such as our fall Savers clothing drive. So if you guys have any clothes that you are no longer wearing, you can save them and bring them to the library this fall, and we actually get a lot of money from Savers to help support library programs using your donations. We also support system-wide advocacy campaigns to increase funding for all of the libraries in our system. We have some additional debates coming up that I wanted to tell you about, not hosted by us, but just stuff that you should know about. There are some mayoral debates coming up at the Mount Pleasant Library, the Rochambeau Library, and the South Providence Library in the coming month. And yeah, that is what we have, and I hope you enjoy the debate. Some of our members are handing out some index cards so that you can write down questions that we will also give to the candidates as the debate continues. We have some questions prepared, but we would appreciate any questions from the audience so that they can answer what is most important to you, the voters, as the election is coming up. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy.
I'll be the moderator this evening. My name's Kathleen Stack, and I am one of the Friends of the Wanskuck Library. I'm a Providence resident, and when I moved Okay. So when I moved back to Providence to help care for my parents, I got very involved in the community library. Thank you all for showing up tonight. It shows you engaging in the community, and I hope that you all get what you're looking for this evening. And please write questions that you want to ask, okay? All right, we'll start, and I'll go through the format, okay? You know the candidates' names. We're going to ask the candidates to introduce themselves, tell you who they are, where they do live, and why they're running for the city council from Ward 14. And you're going to each have 2 minutes to answer that question. We'll go in alphabetical order. We'll start with Patrick.
Good. There we go. It's on. First of all, I want to thank the Wanskuck Library for doing this debate today. And I just want to give you a little brief resume about myself. Obviously, you know by my accent, I come from Ireland. And I came here in 1984 to the Boston area and worked in construction. Then I moved to Providence in 1992 to open my business, Patrick's Pub, on Smith Street in Providence. And I realized very shortly after opening the business that we had no St. Patrick's Day parade. So got working with some very good people, and we resurrected the parade, and we had a parade the following year. Then I started to work in Providence Community Action Program. I worked as in the housing part of it. I was the housing manager, and I was responsible for the maintenance of the non-profit housing in Fox Point and other parts around the city. And then later, I went to work for the city of Providence. I worked in the archives, and then I worked in the city treasury, and then I worked in code enforcement and building inspection, and ended up in the city council office in constituent services. I was married and had two kids, Porrick and Mary Kate, and they went to Placid Sacrament and LaSalle, and graduated from PC and URI. And that's it. My time is up.
Thank you, Patrick.
Can you guys hear me? Okay. My name is Shelly Peterson. I am a resident of the ward for just about 20 years. I have two beautiful children, 12 and 9, and I have my professional experience is in nonprofit development. So anything from fundraising, grant writing. I currently am a grant writer, and I'm also an administrator part-time for a school. The reason, I believe that I'm the most qualified candidate for this particular position based on my professional experience, my lived experience, and my educational experience. Whether I'm sitting and doing some work in my community advocacy, which I do a lot of, whether it's on the board of Habitat where I sit as the president, or whether it's the Resident Advisory Council where we're facilitating resources for the 02908 zip code, or even if I'm just sitting being mom at Fagnoli Park when my kids are playing baseball. I think we have a common thread in the conversations that we all have as Providence residents, and it really comes down to the concern over the future of the city of Providence. And we all have really, it's all very, the same themes come up over and over again, whether it's public safety or rising property taxes or figuring out whether we're going to pay the rent or put food on the table. These are really common conversations that we're consistently having. And again, we're all really worried about what that's going to look like. I believe because I've had experience already doing these things, having negotiations or doing negotiations to push forward affordable home ownership options, or making sure that families are having the resources and the programs available to them. I've done a lot of this work, and I believe that I'm a problem solver and a solution finder, and I think that's exactly what we need on City Council.
All right, thank you, Shelley.
Hi, everyone. Thank you to the Friends of Wanskuck Library for hosting this important debate, and everyone for attending. My name is Andrew Poyant. I'm an environmental scientist, a community organizer, and a father of 3. As an environmental scientist, I've worked on a lot of municipal projects, including drinking water, stormwater, sewer, transportation, parks, hazardous mitigation projects, and disaster recovery. I've seen up close the difference between communities with well-maintained versus neglected infrastructure. I will fight to ensure all Providence neighborhoods have well-maintained public infrastructure designed with climate change in mind. As a father, it has been frustrating to see the lack of urgency by our city government to address issues that impact families, such as the cost of housing and improving our public education system. I was a member of the community design team where I fought for education equity and a strong turnaround plan for Providence Public Schools. I've been organizing with the People's Port Authority since 2016, where we have fought to shut down polluting industries in the Port of Providence. I've organized around housing issues with Direct Action for Rights and Equality and Childhood-Led Action Project. I have testified at City Hall alongside 10, 20, 50, or more Hello? Okay. So I've testified alongside 10, 20, 50 or more people at City Hall, and more often than not, our city government sides with people with money over the people of Providence. I will fight for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay, all right, this evening's format, okay, for the rest of the debate questions, you have 90 seconds to answer, okay? And as a timekeeper has done so far, she's going to let you know when you have your 30 seconds, your 15, and then also when your time's up. All right, for those that are more verbose. The focus, okay, you're going to focus on your audience about your policies, okay? We're going to want to talk about how you want to improve the ward in the city, and we're not going to be going against one another, okay? It's more to present yourself and what you feel you have to offer the city, okay? All right, are we ready? Are we all set? We'll start with the first question. All right. Okay. Is that okay with everyone? Are you guys comfortable? Okay. All right. Are we ready? We'll start with the first question. All right. Much of the economic development in Providence has been focused on revitalizing downtown. What concrete measures would you advocate for economic development in the Wanskuck Elmhurst area? And again, we'll start with Mr. Griffin there.
Well, I would be I would be working, with my experience in the city council, I would work to try and bring in new businesses into our area. I would like to upgrade the housing stock in the city of Providence, and I would get whatever grants and stuff that we can get to try and help with that. Also improve the sidewalks and the streets, the regular infrastructure, make sure the traffic lights and all that. I'm all about community services. So I would like to see sidewalks repaired. I'd like to see the catch basins cleaned. I want clean streets, and trees are trimmed on a regular basis with the city of Providence. I think the infrastructure is very important in the city of Providence.
All righty. Uh-oh.
So, in thinking about this conversation and this particular question, I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that 2 of our small businesses actually closed this summer, between Papa Pauli's and Glow Juice Bar. Really unfortunate, because we were breakfast goers at Papa Pauli's and frequented Glow every now and then. But, I think that the conversation starts with how expensive it is to actually run a business in the city, and how difficult it is to actually open up a business in the city. We need to be making this process easier for people. They shouldn't have to go from building to phone call to this, to get a permit, get a license, pay their taxes. It's not easy. And having to navigate that is just a tax on time and a stressful situation for everybody, to the point where people just don't want to do it. And I don't blame them. I am a firm believer, specifically as it relates to small businesses, that the tax stabilization agreements actually worked. I've seen really good businesses be able to thrive as a result of their small business tax stabilization, TSA for short. And it just gives us an opportunity to continue diversifying the ways of tax that we receive tax revenue here. So I would start with those 2 things.
I'm the only candidate running who is not taking money from real estate developers that are directly benefiting from millions and millions of dollars in tax breaks from the city. I do not support tax stabilization agreements for large corporations or for real estate developers for luxury housing. I will work to end such agreements. I will advocate to rehabilitate or rebuild abandoned housing in our ward and convert it to public housing. I will advocate to rehabilitate and rebuild abandoned storefronts and have them opened up either as worker cooperatives or local small businesses from people living in the ward. I will push to have the city's Economic Development Office support city residents with finding training, finding employment, and starting worker cooperatives, as well as helping our current small businesses. rather than giving big handouts to large corporations and luxury real estate developers. In addition to that, there are several cities in the U.S. that have successfully Can you hear me now? Hello? Okay. On anchor institutions such as colleges and hospitals to contract with local worker cooperatives. This has helped increase wages within the neighborhoods and built a more mutualistic relationship between the colleges and the community.
Thank you. All right.
Did you get a chance to respond to what you said?
Are we going to do that? We're
Did
going
you
to
get a
have
chance to
response?
respond to what he said?
Yes,
yes,
we'll do.
You said that would be sorry.
No, I'm okay.
You know, I've heard you mention that before, Andrew, and my only answer to that is I really would like to know what exactly you think I'm beholden to a donation of $500. You know, if you look at the person that gave all of that, they have contributed to many organizations and many nonprofits here in the city, including parks, which I'm very much a proponent of. But I'm just wondering exactly what it is that you think one donation at $500.
No, all I would like to say that I'm totally in favor of taking storefront properties and getting grants and any ARPA money or anything that it will take to take something off the put it back on the tax roll and revitalize the neighborhood. And I also would like to take abandoned houses and empty lots, clean them up and make them affordable housing. I'm very much in agreement with that.
Okay, well said. All right, we're going to move on to question number 2 then, and we're going to start with Shelly with question number 2. While volunteers, state aid, and private donations are all indispensable to paying for Providence community libraries, there are no substitutes for city dollars, which fund the lion's share of our budget. Every year, the community libraries of Providence lobby for sufficient city funding to maintain just our current library program and services. Despite receiving an ARP grant to increase staffing, programming, and hours at our 3 largest libraries, there wasn't enough money to do the same for our smaller libraries, which included this one, the Wanskuck Library. What steps would you commit to supporting to increase revenue for Providence's neighborhood libraries, particularly the Wanskuck Library?
Okay. As a nonprofit professional, I'm very well aware of what we need to do to stretch that dollar. It's really, really difficult as a nonprofit professional to put on programs, especially when money doesn't come in or things get cut. While I'm in favor of making sure that we advocate for the right federal and state grants to come this way, especially as the libraries are 501c3, you know, I actually think that this is the perfect opportunity for our tax-exempt institutions in the colleges to actually be doing their fair share in supporting our libraries. I think that this is a great opportunity to really advocate to do the right thing by the library, since we have these really wonderful programs already there that are already doing quite a bit. They have their own separate students that are learning all of these things. Why aren't we asking them to help us in this process if we cannot get their tax revenue? To me, working on thinking outside the box and utilizing different resources in that capacity to make sure that they're involved just as much as they want us to be, I think this is a really great opportunity to engage them in that way.
Okay, Andrew?
I enjoy coming to the Wanskuck Library with my kids, and they enjoy being able to pick out different books and and being creative with the craft bags that are provided here. Just this week, I provided a Ward 14 resident with information about English language lessons that our library provides. Providence Libraries is a vital part of our neighborhood. My vision for the expansion of youth programs includes working with our community libraries to do that. I will advocate to restructure our city's tax system to have a fairer tax system, such as having our private colleges and large nonprofits pay their fair share, and putting an end to tax stabilization agreements for luxury housing developments and large corporations. With that money, we can fully fund our neighborhood libraries. Additionally, in addition to each city council member's role with the city budget, I support increasing community engagement with city government. And there's a ward budget, and I support participatory budgeting for the ward budget. We could have it here at our library, and we could discuss with each other how we want to spend our ward dollars. And that could go towards the library. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Patrick?
Yes. First of all, I want to say community libraries such as this library is a very intricate part of the neighborhood, and I support them 100%. I think it's a great tool for kids and the members of the neighborhood to be able to come in here and read books and study in here. So I'm 100% supportive of the local libraries, of the community libraries. As far as funding is concerned, I will, if elected to the city council, I will do everything I can do to appropriate extra funds from the city budget, ARPA money, or any other type of fundraising that we can do. I will support any sort of fundraising that we can do to support these libraries. And you will have a friend in city government if you elect me as your next council person.
Okay, all righty. Okay, any reactions to the candidates so far? Any questions? Okay, so should we move on? Okay. All right, we'll go on to question number 3, and we'll start with Andrew. Okay. Wanskuck and Elmhurst residents, okay, have watched as Providence College has expanded further into our neighborhoods. I can attest to that. At the same time, one developer is buying more and more properties throughout our area, primarily to rent to short-term tenants, including college students. What is your opinion about these incursions into Wanskuck and Elmhurst? Is there anything the city can do to ensure this expansion doesn't change the community from mostly longtime renters and homeowners to a neighborhood characterized by transient renters, many of whom are college students? Okay.
We are living in a housing crisis. I have organized our neighbors with the community organizations Direct Action for Rights and Equality and Childhood-Led Action Project to push back against Strive from buying up our neighborhood. We pushed for Strive to have low-income affordable units in the large building that they are proposing at 663 Admiral Street. At the first City Plan Commission hearing, the City Plan Commission appeared to be agreeing with us and told Strive that what they were building is an off-campus dorm which can only be built downtown. Within a month's time, the City Plan Commission completely changed their opinion. They ended up approving the project with no changes and with no low-income affordable units. While I was there testifying along with our neighbors, Shelly has taken money from the lawyer who is representing Strive at the hearing. I'm the only candidate up here who is not taking money from real estate developers. And in order to be able to address the housing crisis, I support rent stabilization, policies that will incentivize Providence's private colleges to build more on-campus housing, and policies that will limit the number of single-family and multifamily homes.
Okay, yeah, we're out of time.
Corporations
Sorry, we're out of time. Okay, we'll go on to our next candidate.
All right. To me, this question is a very much of a double-edged sword as far as I'm concerned. There's pluses and negatives to both of this. I look on this as we have good landlords and we have good people to come in here and do up these houses and keep them houses very, very well. On the other hand, you have other landlords that come in here that don't take care of the properties, that don't make sure they have college kids or with cups and stuff all over the place. With my experience of being in code enforcement in the city of Providence, I would be bringing these landlords that don't comply and keep their properties up to good shape. I'd be bringing them into the housing courts and making sure that they're. And I also think that the system of getting people into housing courts takes too long. I would also like to see we can work a little bit faster on doing that. Also, you have to take into consideration these landlords sometimes takes houses and takes them off the empty lots and to do them over and make good properties out of them, and they pay more taxes to the city of Providence. So that's why I say it's a very much of a double-edged sword. So yes, I can understand where people can be upset about the college's foot map being taken over. But it happens in every city where there is colleges. So that's my thing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the time. You know, the expanding footprint is actually something that I mentioned at one of your meetings, Andrew, where I said to you, you're having a conversation about Strive, and we also need to see the reality that Providence College is taking up our streets, which is actually equally as bad, and we need to be cognizant of that. You responded that that comment was irrelevant, but that's besides the point. You know, our reality is that that big developer, they don't need city council right now. They don't need variances. They don't need tax credits. They don't need any of it. And I don't believe that when we're asking for all of our community partners to engage and make sure that they're putting community first, that we have any business saying, I'm not going to work with you, I'm not going to continue asking you, I'm not going to continue advocating. We need them at the table just as much as we need all of the people as residents, as students, as the college. We need to be coming up with actual solutions for this community because we're all here. So for me specifically, my goal is to work with what we've got. In the beginning, we need to enforce the codes and the ordinances that we already have going. We need to make sure that inspections are coming in and holding people accountable when they're complaining about their landlords. And
We're out of time, I'm sorry.
no problem.
Okay. Any further questions on this from the audience? Any reaction? Anyone? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's an inaccurate statement. As several people here could attest to, that was not said at a community meeting that I held. And I have said at the community meetings that I do believe that we do need to try to reduce the expansion that Providence College holds.
Sorry. Was there a question? Okay.
Very good question. Just not clear. So you guys have four strides that feel over the neighborhood, and Andrew is not. Is that the long term of it?
Well, I didn't say I was for Strive.
I didn't.
But you're for those types of people coming into the buying up properties. And on my street, they bought a whole bunch. People that live there now pay rents that are higher than
Question.
And I know I understand that you want to work with everyone, including Strive. Is that correct?
I'm going to go on record in saying that displacement is absolutely not acceptable. And displacement, people having to leave their homes because they can no longer afford them, it's absolutely not acceptable. But what we need to do is to continue to mobilize. Unfortunately, we saw a dead end when we started the mobilization. I was actually very much a part of it. I said, let's do it. But we've gotten nowhere. So for me, within my first month, if those conversations don't go anywhere, my commitment to my community is to make sure that I mobilize my community to do what's right. And my community is the resident. I'm beholden to the residents of this ward. That's it.
Okay, now that we've got a response to that, we're going to start on the cards of the questions you asked. We would like the questions, if you have other questions, please give us your cards. We will take them by a card rather than something.
Okay, I'm going to start with the first question from the audience, and we'll start again with Patrick, okay? Focusing on what you have done rather than what you want to do over the past 10 or so years, what have you personally accomplished to benefit the residents of the 14th Ward?
I raised 2 kids here, and my kids went to Providence College. I think that's a feat in itself to bring up a family in the neighborhood, and I'm very proud of that. And I've also was able to run a St. Patrick's Day parade in the community, and it involves schools from the neighborhood that march in the parade every year. So for me, I'm all about the community. I like getting the community involved, and I'm very happy about it. I'm very proud of that.
Ready?
So, like I said before, we've lived in this community for a little while now. And my actual call to action in this particular community was as a result of my son falling off of a play structure. And, he was 2 years old at the time, and the old play structure at Fagnoli Park was very unstable. And the wood split where he was standing, and he fell 4 feet down. He walked away with just a bruise on his elbow. And I was very thankful and all the good graces that come with that. But it freaked me out enough to the point where I said, I need to call my city councilor and I need to figure out what to do. And that was enough for me. It took us 2 years to really make sure that we had encompassed a lot of features to renovate Fagnoli Park. I'm really proud of that work. And it's led to the redevelopment of other parks and conversations about other parks in our ward, which I'm happy to see that they're starting to get change over. So that was just here locally in Ward 14, that's one thing that I did. Additionally, I've advocated for affordable home ownership for residents all over the city of Providence through Habitat for Humanity, among other things.
I've been involved in a lot of organizations and community work. A lot of my work is citywide, so being active in the community design team, which affects all of Providence Public Schools. I've also, been working with Direct Action for Rights and Equality on rent stabilization, which would cap rents cap rent increases to no more than 4% a year, and make sure that landlords are compliant with code enforcement. These would impact both people living in the ward and throughout the city. That's what comes to mind. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the next question. Some residents are concerned that the police have unfairly targeted Black and brown residents, especially teens and young men, and have called for a reorganization of the police department and modification of the Police Bill of Rights. Others are more concerned about crimes in their neighborhoods and call for an increase in the number of police officers. What's your
Let's see. I believe that a system that's designed to protect bad officers and it restricts the good work that a chief can do is just adamantly wrong. With that being said, I believe that we have an opportunity to do really good work where it comes to public safety. It's a common conversation that we have with neighbors when we knock on the doors. It makes sense to have community policing efforts come back. We had them before. They worked out really great. The community knew who the police officers were, and it was really successful here. I also, police officers, I also believe that we should be incentivizing the police to come back and live in these communities. I think that it should be something that they want to do to be a part of this community so that they can see what what we look like, what our profile, what we're doing, and how they also fit into the dynamic of who we are in Ward 14. I call for all of that. It's something that I'm extremely sorry. I'm sorry, everyone. Opportunities to start, but I do want to make sure that we're also making sure that our resources, our budgetary resources, are going in the right places. So I would actually ask for an audit of police to see
I'm
where the
sorry, we're out of time. Okay, our next candidate.
I'm a scientist. Numbers and data are important to me. The police budget has increased every year, every single year that Elorza has been in office. So we need to ask ourselves, why hasn't crime gone down every year? Police accountability and having safe neighborhoods are not an either-or situation. I support the state repealing the Law Enforcement Officer Bill of Rights. We are just one of a handful of states that has such additional protections for law enforcement. We must address the root causes of crime in our city by building affordable housing, investing in our public schools, funding after-school and summer programs for youth, and building green public infrastructure. As we spend public money, let's prioritize training and hiring Providence residents for these living wage jobs, thereby lifting people out of poverty and reducing crime in our city.
All right, next candidate.
All right. As far as with the police, I believe that everyone's citizens' civil rights should be respected, first of all. And I know it has to be horrifying for any brown, black, or any color kid to be pulled over. I personally had experience of that back in Ireland. I went to England shortly after the the Brighton bombings, and I arrived in London, and my cousins were telling me, you have to be very careful right now because they were going after me because I was Irish over in London. And as you all know, you know about the paddy wagon. That was for the Irish. And then some years later, I was in up in the north of Ireland and was pulled up at a British checkpoint. I had to go there and turn my lights off. Well, he pointed a gun in my face and a flashlight and told me not to put my lights on. I had to wait for half an hour, wait for him to come back. I know personally what it's like. And no one should be put into them sorts of situations. And I do believe in the police, the Bill of Rights. I believe legislation is introduced to review it, and I support any changes that would come off that. So I think the police are facing challenges that they have never faced in a long time, and I think it's tough on them right now. So that's what I have to say.
Okay, thank you. We'll go on to the next question. Okay. I would like to know what will be done for the residents in this neighborhood, the Wanskuck side of Admiral Street. I walk through Elmhurst and the streets are cleaner, less abandoned houses. Snow removal is also improved. We need representation on this side as well. Okay, the sidewalks right outside this library are a disgrace. There's litter everywhere, and the list can go on and on. Okay, so we'll begin with Andrew.
This is a concern that we've heard a lot, often from the Wanskuck side of the ward. I really do want to address that and make sure that as we do use our Ward 14 budget dollars, that we do try to address these inequities within the ward, and also work on that from a city level and make sure that, Wanskuck deserves as good a services, not just as Elmhurst, but as the east side. So making sure that our city budget balances out the inequities in infrastructure throughout the whole city. As someone who's done a lot of work in public infrastructure, I really want to make sure that we stay on top of that and that we have great public infrastructure throughout the whole city.
Yes. So during my term working as in constituent services in the city council, I was very much aware of having to deal with sidewalks that are broken or trees uprooted. It's a big part of my portfolio is to deal with constituents with local services like sidewalks, repair, sweeping streets, plowing the streets curb to curb, trimming trees, cleaning catch basins on a regular basis. We pay enough dollars in taxes. The least we might get is good services for our dollars. And I don't understand why we have to have one part of the ward not being treated as good as the other side. All parts of the ward should be treated equally. And if I'm elected to the city council, I'll guarantee you I'll give my 100% to all parts of the ward to make sure our ward is well represented and is clean, and all the sidewalks and all the issues with the ward. I will make it. I'm passionate about the local services, making sure you get that for your dollars.
Thank you.
Andrew, I have to agree with you. We should be addressing the inequities that are happening within our ward. I've often talked about it as a tale of two neighborhoods. I agree with you. I'm sure when we're all walking, we can see the issues of dumping that are happening way more on the Wanskuck side than they ever are in the Elmhurst side. And it's a constant conversation that I'm having with neighbors. But, I think that for me, I would start immediately with a complete streets cleanup in the Wanskuck area. It's exactly what I think that needs to happen right now. We can't ask of our neighbors to take care of their neighborhood when we're not taking care of them ourselves. So that would be an immediate response when elected. Additionally, I really believe, and I'm a firm believer, that representation matters. And being Latina, but also living on the Elmhurst side, I'm very cognizant of the inequities that are happening and the differences that happen all too often. And they're not things that that I shy away from. As a matter of fact, people that have donated to my campaign to help me in supporting that particular neighborhood, because that's where I want to see them do the most work.
Thank you. All righty. We'll go on to the next question. Okay. How will you create green living for everyone? And we'll start with Patrick.
Excuse me, can you repeat that question?
How will you create green living?
Green living?
Yes, green living.
Okay. Well, I'm not quite sure how to answer that question, but as far as with housing and all that, I would be supporting the most efficient insulation in the houses. I would get the housing stock. Every time someone puts up a house, have to best put the most efficient refrigerators, the most efficient stoves, and that all the housing going forward has to be green and green, whatever. That'd be my question.
Okay. All right, Shelly.
You know, I teach on Monday nights, I teach environmental justice to 13 to 18-year-olds. And the common conversation in those meetings is, how do I ask my parents to pay attention to all of these things when we don't know if we're going to be able to have something to eat tonight, or we don't know if the hot water is actually working in my apartment? It's a common conversation. Wanskuck into the subsidized housing units over here. We need to have a concerted effort on making sure that we're following the guides of what the climate justice plan has put forward for us in the city of Providence. But also, we need to be able to make sure that our all of our communities understand the importance of green infrastructure and environmental sustainability. And the reality is that not everybody has that in their direct list of important things, because they're already dealing with other barriers that they need to take care of.
We're out of time. Okay. Next candidate.
I'm an environmental scientist, and I've been organizing around environmental justice for a very long time, including working with the People's Port Authority. I could talk about this for way longer than 90 seconds, sorry. I will fight for green, affordable housing, making sure that our low-income housing has insulation so people are not spending a ridiculous amount of money on energy. I will make sure that we are enforcing code enforcement so that way our kids are not getting lead poisoning. I will make sure that we are shutting down the polluting industries in the Port of Providence and building public renewable energy to shut down the Manchester Street power station so our kids can stop having asthma at some of the highest rates in the country. I will fight for all of these things because I have been fighting for these things, and I will continue to fight to make sure everyone in Providence has affordable green housing, has clean air to breathe, and clean water to drink.
Okay, thank you. Oh, more questions. Great.
Do you want me to just project?
Okay. Do you want me to do a lightning one before this? Okay. Okay. All right.
The one about the library card.
How much time did they get for this?
They only get 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Okay.
No, you can probably get to 2 more regular cards.
All right. Okay. All right. We're gonna switch over to one of the lightning questions. The response on these is it's just a 30-second response, and I believe we start with you, Shelly, this time. Is that the order we're in? Or,
Sure.
Or Andrew.
Thanks, Shelly.
Shelly. Okay. Like, all right. So our question is, if elected, would you commit to holding regular community meetings with constituents here in the library?
Absolutely.
Okay, all righty.
Yes, of course.
I'll definitely encourage that, and I will encourage people to attend, because a lot of times at these community meetings, not a lot of people are showing up except there's a major issue. But I think it's important that we get people on a regular basis to show up, because there's a lot of things happening in the city right now, and people need to be informed.
All right, great, super. All right, affirmative on all of those. Okay, we're going to go back to the regular questions now. Okay, upon receiving the city budget, what are 3 items you would like to erase and why? And we'll start with Andrew.
Did you say raise or?
No, erase, eliminate, take it out of there, get that eraser. Erase with the eraser. I'm sorry, I was the English teacher.
I would need to look through the city budget more closely to see where there is waste in order to see what should be eliminated. I think some things may need to be more reallocated as opposed to erasing. I think that the city provides a lot of necessary services, some of which could be better used, but I don't know if I would just erase any.
Okay, all right. So you don't see the need for elimination of anything as far as you know. Okay, we're ready. We'll move on and next. Yeah, we're all going to answer these.
Like Andrew, I would definitely have to sit down and go through the city budget. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff in the city budget that is wasteful, and I personally would like to go through the city budget and find out what items in the budget are wasting money, and I would eliminate it that way. I would have a complete audit of the budget and find out where we can save money, because we pay. That's the big problem right now. There's only about a third of us in this city paying all the taxes, and we can't keep on affording to pay taxes on wasteful items in the budget. So I would definitely audit the budget and go through it and fine tooth comb and eliminate where I could find any waste.
I had a little bit longer than my two counterparts to think about this one, but I probably would say not necessarily eliminating, but reducing the mayoral budget and the city council budget. I think that there's a little bit of overspending and perhaps some inflation there that we could cut down on. I'm also a proponent of, I can't remember the name of the budgeting, but bottom line, the zero budgeting. I think it's really important that we restart our budget from scratch every single year in order to get things accomplished the way we need them to as the years project, or we anticipate the needs. So I would start with those two.
All right, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the next question. Okay. 2 years after the takeover of the Providence schools by the state, many parents continue to complain that the schools in the city are dysfunctional. What, if anything, can you as a city councilor do to help improve the situation? Okay, we'll start with Patrick. Yes.
Well, first of all, I think that's a very difficult question to answer, seeing that nobody has answered it yet. Providence schools were disastrous, and then the city had to come in and take it over. There was a John Hopkins report did on how bad the Providence schools were doing, and I'm not sure that the state is doing a whole lot better or have even approached some of the issues with the Providence School Department. I just think it's horrible to think that our young kids coming up today are our future, and we have failing school like this in the city of Providence. As city council person, I would pull everybody together, teachers, unions, parents, everybody, and the city and state officials, sit down and figure out what they have done and what is working, and then I would find out what problems there is and how are we going to fix it. Because it's just not good enough to have our kids having to be in a failing school. So the important thing is, I think we need to sit down, negotiate, and try and get a better school system. We have to work on that.
Thank you. I think that if you sit and you talk to a Providence student, I think that you would sit there and hear them to tell you, stop changing the plan. Like, stop messing with the curriculums every 2 years. Stop asking for, readdressing certain things or pulling people out of the positions that they're in, or changing the superintendents left and right. I don't agree in a take back of the schools without a robust plan. And I believe that with a robust plan that includes really specific timelines and really specific deadlines and actually what it is that we're trying to do within these deadlines, I think that's the only way that we can actually start getting to the crux of what we need to do with the schools. We can't continue to fall into this trap of we're going to try this, we're going to start this, we're going to change this guy over. I actually want to see the program that we have thrive. So I'm very much in favor of keeping the superintendent that we currently have. I think he has homegrown institutional knowledge, and wanting to do things the right way is his main goal. And I think that in order for a plan to work, we need to actually stay with the plan so that we can see what's going to happen and then get data from that and reassess.
As a father of three and someone who struggled reading in elementary school, education is extremely important to me. Providing a high-quality public education for all Providence residents is an issue I will continue to fight for. Every candidate is going to say education is a priority, just like every elected official before us. However, our public schools have been underfunded for decades. And our schools are falling apart. This is unacceptable. I'm running alongside a group of candidates, some of who are here, hi Damian and Cynthia, who are fighting to have a fairer tax system at the state level and at the city level, so we can assure that Providence public schools. Additionally, I want to increase transparency and public engagement in decision making around our schools. I'll advocate for re-implementing the Providence City Council Committee on Education and hold quarterly meetings with all stakeholders, parents, students, staff, the school board, Rhode Island Department of Education, and the mayor's office, and all other interested parties. I will advocate for rebuilding and fully funding our schools, increasing staff of color and multilingual staff, and expanding dual language programs in PTSD. We need to hire more behavioral specialists and special education teachers.
Sorry, we're out of time. Okay, we'll do another quick lightning round question. Okay, the question is, and we'll start with Shelly. Do you have a library card?
I do.
All right.
And my kids just got actually renewed theirs a few weeks ago, right?
I do, and my kids do too.
Okay, all right.
I'm sorry.
Okay, all righty. Now we're not going to do the last one? All right. I think we covered it anyway, yeah.
We'll end the formal part. And I want to sit around and have